Humbert here, and today we're going to be doing Unit 1, Note 7. So we are going to be talking about the midpoint of a segment. So the midpoint of the segment is basically just the halfway point. So it's the halfway point between 2 points. That's so hard to see. Halfway point. We'll keep it easy and write PT to represent point. So here is the midpoint formula when we're talking about a number line. So we're not talking about a graph. This is just simply on a number line. So if you have a number line, all you're going to do is add your 2 points together that you pick, and then you're going to divide them by 2. So for example, number 1 asks us, what is the midpoint of FH? So what we're going to do is take the coordinate point for F, which is -3, and the point for y, which is 5, and add them together, keeping their sign. So notice that 3 is negative, and I kept it as negative in there. So -3 plus 5 is going to give me 2, and then that's going to be divided by 2. Well, 2 divided by 2 is 1. So actually, G is the midpoint between F and H. Now let's go ahead and let's take a look at G and H now. So the point of G is 1, and the point of H is 5. So we have 1 plus 5, and we're dividing that by 2. So that's going to be 6 divided by 2 is equal to 3. Okay? Let's take a look at some more examples. Find B given that A is the midpoint of BT. Well, if A is the midpoint, that means that this segment is the same length as this segment. The two of them are equal to each other. So I can write that out that way. 2B plus 3 is equal to 11. And then we're going to go ahead and solve that for B. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, and I get that 2B is equal to 11 minus 3, which is 8. So I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 2, and 8 divided by 2 is going to give me 4. So the answer here is that B is equal to 4. Let's take a look at number 4. Find the measure of PQ if Q is the midpoint of PR. Again, that means that these two segments are the same length. So since they're the same length, that means that 14 plus 5y is equal to 9y minus 2. So first thing I need to do is figure out what y is equal to, because eventually we're trying to find the measure of PQ. Well, to know the measure of PQ, I need to know what y is equal to. So first thing I'm going to do is get my y's on the same side of the line. So I see that that's a positive 5y. So to get it over to the other side, I'm going to subtract 5y from both sides. So I get 14 is equal to 4y minus 2. Then I'm going to go ahead and add 2 to both sides to get that y by itself. 14 plus 2 is 16, and then I get 4y. So I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 4. 16 divided by 4 is 4. Now that's what y is equal to. Well, that didn't work very well. But that's not my final answer because I need to know what the length of PQ is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the expression that I know represents PQ and I'm going to substitute in what I know y is. So I'm going to take y out and I'm going to put that 4 in instead. So I have 14 and 5 times 4 is 20. And then you add the 2 together and you get 34. So the length of the segment PQ is going to be equal to 34. Since Q is the midpoint, QR then is also the length of 34. All right, now let's take a look at this midpoint formula. So first thing we want to do is identify the coordinates of the following point. So here's G right here, and we want to figure out where G is. Remember that coordinate points always go X and then Y. So first thing I want to do is figure out how far over I'm going. So I'm going left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I went left 7. So that's going to be negative. And then I went down 1 for G, and that's also going to be negative. So G is at the point -7, -1. Taking a look at F, I'm going right 1, so that's going to be positive, and then I'm going down 1, so that's going to be a -1. Taking a look at H here, I want to figure out how many I'm going over, so I'm going over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, So my x-coordinate is 6, and then I'm going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, it's different on your note sheet. Looks like h on your note sheet is only going up 3. So we will write that instead. So we keep true to your note sheet. It looks like also on your note sheet that f is at -3. I apologize. I did not realize they were different. Okay, so let's take a look now at the midpoint formula. So the midpoint formula, what you're going to do is you're going to add the two x-coordinates together and divide by 2. Add the two y-coordinates together, divide by 2. So what is the midpoint of FH? So to find the midpoint of FH, I'm just going to extend this down so we have some more space. We first need to know what each of the coordinates are. Well, F is going to be -1, -3. G is going to be, or FH, I'm sorry, H is going to be 6, 3 according to your guys' graph. So we'll use that one. So now to calculate out the midpoint, I'm going to add the x-coordinates. So -1 plus 6 divided by 2. Then I'm going to add the y-coordinates, -3 plus 3 divided by 2. So then what I end up getting is 5 divided by 2 and 0 divided by 2. Well, 5 divided by 2 is 3.5, and 0 divided by 2 is simply going to be 0. So the midpoint of those 2 points is 3.5 and 0. So if you were to plot that point, it should be exactly in between those 2 points. Now let's take a look at GH. So G is going to be at the point -7, -3. H is going to be at the point, you guys, GF. Goodness, this is my struggle. Welcome to my struggle. GF. Let me pick my eraser. Okay, GF. And F is going to be at 1, -3. So let's go ahead and let's calculate out the midpoint. So we're going to add the two exponents together and divide by 2. Add the two y-coordinates together and divide by 2. Okay, so what we're going to do, -7 plus 1 is -6 divided by 2. -3 minus 3, that's going to get more negative. So it's really like adding them together to get -6 divided by 2. So -6 divided by 2 is -3, and same for the second one. So the midpoint then is -3, -3. So let's go ahead and let's just take a look at these last ones. So we are just trying to find the midpoint of these last couple of points here. So we're going to go ahead, and if it helps you, label x1, y1, x2, y2 across the top of it. Students sometimes find that that really helps them keep track. So we're going to do x2 plus x1 and divide that by 2. Then y2 plus y1 and divide that by 2. Well, -6 plus -2 is going to get more negative. That's going to be a -8 divided by 2. 4 minus 6, or 4 plus a -6, is going to be a -2. -8 divided by -2 is -4. -2 divided by 2 is -1. So that's your final answer for number 7. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at number 8. So we have x1, y1, x2, y2. So we're going to add our two x-coordinates together and divide by 2. Add our two y-coordinates together, divide by 2. 3 plus 5 is 8 divided by 2. 7 plus 9 is going to be 16 divided by 2. Well, 8 divided by 2 is going to be 4. 16 divided by 2 is going to be 8. So the midpoint is 4, 8. Let's take a look at number 9 and adding those points together. So we're going to add our two exponents together. If you still need to write x1, y1, x2, y1, x1, y1, x2, y2, feel free to do that. Then we're going to add our two y-coordinates together, then divide by 2. So 4 minus 2 is going to be 2 over 2. -6 plus -6 is actually going to be a -12 divided by 2. Well, 2 over 2 is 1. -12 divided by 2 is -6. So this right here is your answer for number 9. Finally, let's take a look at number 10. We're going to add our x-coordinates together, which is -3 plus 1 divided by 2. Add our y-coordinates together, which is 5 plus a -2 divided by 2. Well, negative 3 plus 1 is going to give me a negative 2 over 2. 5 plus a negative 3, or 2, 5 minus 2 basically, is going to be 3 over 2. So we're going to divide those out. For geometry, we're going to be using a lot of decimals, so decimal answers is A-okay. So negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. So that's your midpoint, and that concludes your note video for today. Thanks for listening.